You know that version of you that shows up in your head at 2000 and the one who says, "Why did I let that slide? Why didn't I speak up? Why am I still living like this?" That version of you is the reason we're here right now. Because on one side, you've been told your whole life to be a good person, to be kind, to be fair, to not rock the boat. And on the other side, life keeps proving to you that the people who move up, who get the promotion, who get chosen, who actually build the life they want, they're not always the nicest. They're strategic. They're willing to be uncomfortable. They're willing to look a little selfish. So, you end up stuck in the middle. You don't want to become some cold, manipulative villain. But you're also tired of being the one who plays fair while other people play to win. This is where Machiavelli and Nietzsche walk in, not as posters on edgy Instagram accounts, but as tools. Machiavelli is the voice that says, people are not who you wish they were. They are who they show you they are. Make your decisions based on that. Nietzsche is the voice that says, stop waiting for someone to give you permission to live. Decide what you want your life to mean and bend yourself toward it with everything you have. When you put those two together, you get something powerful. Ruthlessness without losing your soul. Unbreakable will without burning yourself alive. If you felt walked over at work, stuck in a relationship where your needs never seem to matter, or trapped in a life that feels like it's happening to you instead of being created by you, stay with this because by the end, you're going to have a way of thinking and acting that you can actually use tomorrow morning. Let's start with something uncomfortable but honest. Nice has a cost. Think about the last time you said yes when you wanted to say no. Maybe your boss dumped extra work on you just this once. Maybe a friend guilt-tripped you into doing something you didn't want to do. Maybe a family member crossed a line and you told yourself it's not worth the fight. Did being nice there make your life better? Or did it buy you a few minutes of peace at the cost of days of resentment? Here's the quiet truth nobody really says out loud. Most people are not sitting around trying to ruin your life. But most people are also not carefully protecting your interests. They are busy serving their own. Machiavelli would tell you power is not just for kings and princes. Power is simply who gets to decide what happens at your job. Who decides what happens? At home, in your relationship, in your day-to-day routine, who decides what happens? If the honest answer is not really me, then nothing else we talk about will matter until that changes. Now, before we go further, I want you to hear this clearly. Being more ruthless does not mean becoming cruel. It means becoming clear. Ruthless clarity about what you want, what you will not tolerate, what you're willing to pay for the life you say you want. Most people avoid this kind of clarity because it's scary. Once you admit what you want, you lose the comfort of the excuse. You can't hide behind "I don't know" anymore. This is where Nietzsche steps in. Nietzsche talks about the will to power, not power like cartoon villains taking over the world. Power as in your ability to shape yourself and your life, instead of being shaped by everything around you. If you're in your late 20s, 30s, 40s, and you feel like your life is just a loop of work, chores, scrolling, sleep, that's not because you're weak. It's because your will has been pointed everywhere except at your own becoming. Let's make this real. Picture someone. We'll call him Alex. Mid-30s, good worker, reliable. His boss loves him because every time there's a crisis, Alex is the one who stays late, who covers, who says, "Yeah, I'll handle it." Alex tells himself this is loyalty. Deep down, it's also fear. Fear of conflict, fear of being seen as difficult, fear of losing his place. Year after year, Alex watches other people get promoted, including the guy who says, no, unless it's in his job description. Maria would look at Alex and say, "You are useful, but not powerful. You've made yourself easy to exploit." Nur would ask, "Is this really the life you would choose again and again if you had to live it eternally on repeat?" Now imagine instead Alex starts to think like Machiavelli and Nietzsche together. First, he stops judging how the world should be and starts seeing how it actually works. He notices his company rewards visibility, not just effort. It values people who take ownership, not people who quietly clean up messes. That's Machiavellian realism. Then he asks himself the Nietzschean question. What do I want my work to mean in the next 5 years? Do I want to be the dependable background character, or do I want to build a life where I have options? Maybe more money, maybe more time, maybe enough leverage to say no without panic. From that he creates a plan. He decides, I will no longer automatically say yes to every extra task. I will choose projects that increase my visibility. I will speak up in meetings at least once, even if my heart is pounding. That unbreakable will in small practical steps. It's not glamorous. It's not shouting affirmations in the mirror. It's tiny acts of rebellion against your old fearful self. Let me give you a very simple definition that I want you to remember. Machiavellian ruthlessness. I accept how the world works and I act strategically within it. Nietzschean will. I choose who I'm becoming, and I endure the cost of that choice. Put those together and you get I see clearly, I choose clearly, and I act decisively. So, how do you actually do that when you're tired? When you've got bills, kids, aging parents, a partner who doesn't fully get what you're trying to do? Let's break it down into 3 areas: how you see people, how you see yourself, and how you act. First, how you see people. Most of us project our own intentions onto others. If you're naturally considerate, you assume others are too. You think, well, I would never take advantage of someone, so they wouldn't either. Machiavelli would laugh at that. His view is blunt. People are moved by fear, self-interest, and ambition more than by gratitude or fairness. Not because they're evil, but because that's how human nature tends to operate under pressure. You don't have to agree with this completely. But ask yourself, what changes if you assume that in any situation everyone is primarily looking out for themselves? It doesn't make you paranoid. It makes you prepared. The coworker who always forgets to give you credit. They're not just forgetful. They are practicing a strategy. Shine the light on themselves. The family member who keeps crossing your boundaries. They're not just bad with limits. They are learning that your no is actually a soft maybe. When you see that, you stop taking things so personally and start asking better questions. What does this person actually want? What do they gain by keeping things the way they are? What do I need to change so that my interests are protected too? This is where a bit of ruthlessness comes in. Ruthless means you're willing to stop being endlessly understanding when someone's behavior is costing you your peace, your money, or your time. You don't need to make a dramatic speech. You change the structure. You stop saying, sure, no problem, and start saying, I can't do that, but here's what I can do. You stop arguing about respect and start changing access. Less time, less energy, less attention given to people who consistently take more than they give. A Machiavellian lesson. Don't waste energy trying to change people's nature. Change their incentives or your proximity. If someone only shows up when they need something, stop being available on demand. If your partner only takes your needs seriously when you're at a breaking point, stop waiting until you explode. Bring consequences earlier and calmly. Now, second, how you see yourself. Nietzsche would tell you that most people live as if they're extras in their own life. They adopt values from their parents, from school, from society, and then suffer quietly under them. You might be carrying rules that don't belong to you. I have to always be agreeable. It's wrong to want more money. Taking time for myself is selfish. I'm too old to start over. Who told you those? And more importantly, who benefits from you believing them? If you think wanting more money is greedy, who benefits? Usually the people who are already using your underpaid labor. If you think you're too old to change careers, who benefits? The system that keeps you exactly where you are, predictable and tired. Nietzsche would challenge you to ask, what do I actually value beyond the scripts I was handed? Maybe you value freedom more than approval. Maybe you value depth more than comfort. Maybe you value building something that outlives you more than feeling safe. Today, when you get honest about your values, you also get honest about your contradictions. You can't say I value health and consistently treat your body like an afterthought. You can't say I value freedom and never tolerate short-term discomfort. Here's a small uncomfortable exercise you can do after this. Write down 3 things you say you value, and then write one way your current life contradicts each one. Not to shame yourself, but to give your will something real to push against. Now the third part, how you act. This is where ruthlessness and will have to meet reality. Your schedule, your habits, your conversations. Let's talk about action in 3 levels: micro, medium, and macro. Microactions are the small daily signals you send to yourself about who you are. A niche approach to microaction might sound like every day, no matter what, I do one thing that is aligned with the person I want to become, even if it's tiny. If you want to be someone strong and self-respecting, that one thing might be saying no to one small request you don't have the capacity for. Going for a 15-minute walk even when you're tired. Spending 10 minutes learning a skill instead of doom-scrolling. These sound almost too small to matter, but they are how you train your will, the way you'd train a muscle. Then you bring in Machiavellian thinking. Where does this microaction actually shift power even a little? Saying no reinforces that your time is not free. Moving your body reinforces that your health is not negotiable. Learning a skill reinforces that your value in the marketplace isn't frozen. Medium actions are conversations and decisions that change the way other people relate to you. This might mean telling your manager, "I'm happy to help in emergencies, but I've been consistently handling tasks beyond my role. I'd like to talk about adjusting my title or compensation to reflect that." Telling a partner, "I love you, but I can't keep pretending I'm okay with never having time for my own goals." We need to restructure how we handle responsibilities. Telling a friend, "When you cancel last minute every time, it makes me feel unimportant. I still care about you, but I'm going to stop rearranging my schedule for plans that aren't solid." These conversations are uncomfortable. Your heart will race. You might stumble over your words. That's fine. That's your old self panicking because it's losing control. Ruthlessness here means you are willing to be seen as selfish or difficult in the short term in order to live a life that's actually yours in the long term. Macro actions are the bigger shifts: changing jobs, leaving relationships, starting businesses, moving cities, radically restructuring your habits. People often try to start here with the giant leap without building the micro and medium levels first. That's why they burn out or bounce back. Nietzsche would remind you, unbreakable will isn't proven by one huge heroic decision. It's proven by repeatedly choosing the path. That makes you stronger, not smaller, even when nobody's watching. Machiavelli would add, don't make a big move without understanding the terrain. Thinking of quitting your job? Map your finances, build skills, test freelance work on the side, build allies in your industry. Thinking of leaving a relationship? Notice patterns, document your experiences, even just for yourself. Build emotional and practical support. Thinking of starting something new? Study the field. Understand who holds power there, what they reward, where the gaps are. Ruthlessness isn't running away, it's moving towards something on purpose with your eyes open. Now there's a danger in all of this, and I want to be real about it. If you lean too hard into Machiavelli, you can become cynical and manipulative. You start to see every interaction as a game to win. If you lean too hard into Nietzsche, you can become self-obsessed and isolated. You start to feel like you're the only one who gets it, and everyone else is weak. Both of those roads lead to a lonely, bitter place. So, how do you balance it? You anchor ruthlessness in values, and you anchor will in compassion. What does that look like? Ruthlessness in values means there are non-negotiables in how you treat yourself and others. For example, I don't lie to people I care about. I don't use threats, blackmail, or humiliation to get my way. I will not sacrifice my health for someone else's comfort, including my own laziness. You can be firm, even cold in your decisions while still refusing to become cruel. Compassionate will means you push yourself, but you're not your own tyrant. Instead of, "I'm such a failure, I'll never change," you say, "Okay, I slipped today. What's one small thing I can still do to move in the right direction?" Instead of, "If I can't be perfect, what's the point?" You say progress over a year matters more than one flawless day. Machiavelli would say fear is a powerful motivator. Nietzsche would say love of your own potential, love of what you could become is even stronger. So try this. Instead of only acting from fear of staying stuck, act from respect for the person you're trying to become. Imagine them. The version of you 5 years from now who took this seriously. What do they look like when they walk into a room? How do they handle disrespect? How do they talk to themselves after a hard day? What habits are just normal to them now that feel like a big deal to you today? That person is not created from one massive breakthrough. They're built from hundreds of small, ruthless choices in favor of your future, backed by a will that refuses to die just because you had a bad week. Let's get even more practical. I want to give you a small framework you can actually use starting now. Before any significant decision or request, ask 3 questions. 1. If I say yes to this, what am I saying no to? 2. What does this choice teach other people to expect from me? 3. Is this aligned with who I'm trying to become or with who I'm afraid to stop being? If someone at work asks you to stay late again on short notice, run it through the questions. If I say yes, what am I saying no to? Maybe time with my family, rest, my side project. What does this choice teach people to expect? That my time is flexible and their urgency is my responsibility. Is this aligned with who I'm trying to become or who I'm afraid to stop being? Maybe it's aligned with staying the nice, dependable one and not aligned with becoming someone who values their time. That doesn't mean you always say no. Sometimes you'll decide, Tonight I'll accept this cost because it genuinely matters for my long-term goals. That's fine. The point is to choose with awareness, not out of habit. Another tool, the weekly ruthless audit. Once a week, sit down for 10 minutes and write answers to 3 prompts. Where did I act from fear this week? Where did I act from will? Where did I pretend to be powerless even though I had options? Be honest, but not dramatic. Maybe you acted from fear by staying silent when your partner said something that bothered you. Maybe you acted from will by going to the gym when you really didn't feel like it. Maybe you pretended to be powerless by blaming time when really it was scrolling that ate your evening. Then choose just one place to do something different next week, not 10. 1. Ruthless doesn't mean doing everything at once. It means cutting through your own excuses and saying this changes now, even in a small,